Somewhere in the middle of the ocean lies an island where time has completely stopped. No one there uses phones, no one drives cars, and no one has ever experienced the modern world. Outsiders who try to step foot are greeted not with handshakes, but with arrows. This isn't a legend or a movie plot. This is a real place on our planet. It's so dangerous, the government has made it illegal to even go near it. This is the forbidden island of the Sentinelese. Today we're diving into the story of the Sentinelese, who they are, why they remain so isolated, and the tough question, should we ever try to reach them? A place where time seems to stand still. In a world of constant change, this island stands apart. Stay with me. The story is stranger than it seems. This is a deep dive into one of the most isolated peoples on Earth. Begin with where it sits on the map. North Sentinel is part of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a chain of more than 500 islands stretching through the Bay of Bengal. Most of them are uninhabited. A few are home to other small tribes, but Sentinel is different. Sentinel Island is small, only about 60 square kilometers, but it's surrounded by coral reefs that act as a natural barrier. From above, it looks like a tropical paradise, green jungle, white sand beaches, and crystal clear waters. But beneath that beauty lies one of the most isolated communities on the planet. No modern infrastructure, no visible boats or docks. North Sentinel is part of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a chain of more than 500 islands, stretching through the Bay of Bengal. A few islands are home to other small tribes, like the Onge and the Jarawa, who have had limited contact with the modern world. But Sentinel Island is different. Coral reefs form a near impenetrable ring, natural protection from outside ships. Even experienced local fishermen avoid the reefs and the shallow lagoons surrounding the island. From a distance, it looks idyllic. Up close, it's been fiercely defended. That defense is the reason it remains so isolated. To understand why, we go back to the first sightings recorded by outsiders. It begins in the 18th century. Next, the earliest encounters. The earliest known sighting was in 1771, when a British East India Company ship noticed faint lights on the island. For decades after, nothing much was known. Then in 1867, the merchant ship Nineveh was wrecked nearby. Survivors made it to shore, but what they found wasn't a rescue. They were attacked by the islanders, armed with bows and arrows. They managed to hold out until a British ship came to save them. This was the first clear sign of the Sentinelese attitude toward outsiders. Strangers were not welcome. Arrows became the symbol of that warning, a clear message: keep away. Reports of attacks spread among sailors and merchants. The island grew in legend and danger in the eyes of outsiders. Over time, those stories layered into a broader history of contact and conflict. Next, colonial attempts and their consequences. What followed was not exploration, but domination, and deep wounds were opened. We go now to the colonial era. The British, who controlled India at the time, made repeated attempts to study and control the Andaman tribes. They built a penal colony on nearby South Andaman, where prisoners were sent under harsh conditions. As part of their expansion, they also tried to approach North Sentinel. One expedition took an elderly couple and some children off the island. The elderly died almost immediately from disease. The children were returned, but likely carried illnesses that could have devastated their people. For the Sentinelese, that kidnapping may have been a turning point, an unforgettable betrayal that explained why outsiders could not be trusted. Trust was broken, and defense hardened into policy. Colonial records show repeated attempts and repeated failures. The island resisted incorporation into the colonial world. That resistance was not mere hostility, it was survival. When contact meant death and disease, defense was a rational choice. Outside stories filled the gaps: rumors, myths, and fear. Next, we look at how myths formed around the Andaman tribes. History and rumor intertwined. For centuries, travelers and explorers spread wild stories about the Andaman tribes. Marco Polo even described them as a most cruel generation who ate anyone they captured. These claims weren't true, but they shaped how outsiders saw the islanders, as dangerous and savage. Yet seen from their perspective, defense is understandable. Each time outsiders came, it brought disaster, violence, kidnapping, disease. To them, defending their land wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Empathy demands we see the pattern of harm contact brought. It's not just myth, it's a record of repeated catastrophe. Outsiders projected fear onto the unknown, and those fears hardened into policy. The result, a cycle of rumor, violence, and isolation. In the 20th century, cautious attempts resumed, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not. Health risks would shape policy more than curiosity ever could. Next, a rare moment of peaceful contact and its aftermath. We move into the modern era, a story of risk and restraint. After India gained independence in 1947, the government declared North Sentinel Island a tribal reserve. Technically, no one was supposed to go there, but anthropologists and officials still made cautious attempts. In the 1970s and 80s, expeditions would approach by boat, leaving gifts on the beach: coconuts, tools, even a live pig. Sometimes the Sentinelese watched from the trees. Sometimes they accepted the gifts, but other times they shot arrows. One story tells of a man shooting an arrow that struck a visitor's thigh, then laughing as the injured man pulled it out, a mix of curiosity, warning, and humor by their measure. Then, in 1991, anthropologist Madhumala Chattopadhyay managed to establish peaceful contact. She and her team floated coconuts toward the island. The Sentinelese waded into the water to collect them. For a moment, it seemed like a breakthrough, but that moment was not the signal for sustained contact. Soon after, the government decided to end all contact attempts. The risk of passing on diseases like flu or measles was simply too high. From then on, India adopted a no-contact policy. Protection over curiosity became the official rule. Even so, incidents would continue to puncture that isolation. In 1981, the freighter Primrose ran aground on a reef. The stranded crew watched as Sentinelese men appeared on the beach, preparing rafts. In 2004, after the catastrophic tsunami, Indian helicopters flew over the island to check for survivors. When the helicopter hovered, one man stepped onto the beach and shot arrows at it. A defiant message: "We are still here, leave us alone." Their survival after the waves was also a statement of resilience. In 2006, 2 fishermen who drifted too close were killed. Their bodies remain on the beach to this day, unrecovered, because authorities fear the risks of further contact. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chow attempted to bring Christianity to the island. He paid local fishermen to take him illegally close, then tried to land. Despite repeated warnings, and even after being shot at once, he returned. On his final attempt, he was killed. His story sparked global headlines and fierce debate. Many argued he was a martyr. Many said it was reckless and illegal. The legal and ethical boundaries are clear. The island is off limits. These incidents show the costs of contact, sometimes fatal. What do we actually know about the Sentinelese? Not much, but here's what's been observed. They are hunter-gatherers. They fish in shallow waters, hunt wild pigs and birds, and gather fruits and honey. Their canoes are unique, more like rafts with outriggers, used only in lagoons and shallow seas. They don't seem to sail into open waters. Their weapons include bows, arrows, and spears, crafted from local wood and sometimes tipped with iron scavenged from shipwrecks. They use fire, though it's unclear if they make it themselves or simply preserve embers. Their language, completely unrecorded and not understood, even by other Andaman tribes. Scientists estimate their population is small, maybe as few as 50, maybe as many as 400. That small number makes them incredibly vulnerable. Even a mild flu outbreak could be catastrophic. So authorities prioritize protecting them by keeping outsiders away. The reef is both their shield and their silence. What little we glimpse is a people adapted to their environment with knowledge of sea, land, and shelter. And yet most of their lives are intentionally left unwitnessed. That silence forces a hard question. And that brings us to the big question: what should we do? Should we try to contact them, to learn from them, to preserve their culture? Or should we respect their wishes and leave them in peace? On one hand, every human culture is valuable, and learning about the Sentinelese could tell us more about our own past. Knowledge, languages, and histories could be lost forever without study. On the other hand, history shows contact usually destroys isolated tribes. Disease, exploitation, forced assimilation. That destruction is not hypothetical. It is recorded across the globe. For now, India has chosen protection over curiosity. North Sentinel is strictly off limits. The Coast Guard patrols its waters. The Sentinelese continue their way of life, just as they have for tens of thousands of years. Maybe some mysteries are the last things we should leave untouched. So what do you think? Should we ever try to contact the Sentinelese, or is leaving them alone the only way to protect them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because there are still many more stories hidden in the corners of our world. Thanks for watching.